I've written a book on Ireland's economic crash, and the main reason I've written the book is I can't really stand arrogant people, right, who think they have a God-given right to lecture the population about why we need to have wage cuts, why we have to cut the public services, and crucially, why we have to attack the poor by reducing social welfare. And I think it's almost like you're living in a one-party state at the moment. Every single day in the media, the same message: wage cuts, cut the public services, slash social welfare comes across. When I was driving down, I think, to Tralee, Olivia Leary was on the radio news saying all her family had emigrated, she must do something for the country, she's so glad she's taken a wage cut because at least she feels good she's going to help create jobs. The night after that, it was the old bureaucrat of the Irish state, a man called T.K. Whittaker, one of the top civil servants in the 1950s, again urging people to take a wage cut. Now, the point about all this is that this is promoted, as I said, as a single party line by economists. And Ireland is an unusual society because for 70 years, maybe more, we were dominated by priests. Priests came on the pulpit every Sunday, told you what was what, how to run your sex life, how to run your lives, and unfortunately too many people listen to the priests. The priests have now been shunted aside, or at least they are being shunted aside to some extent, not enough in my view, but now they've been replaced by economists. And every day the economists come on the radio, you know their names: Jim Power, Alan Ahern, John Fitzgerald, same people, same message, all the time, right? Now, the first thing you need to understand is you need, in this society, to learn disrespect. Always disrespect your betters and always doubt them, because if you do, you'll end up in an economist-ridden society, whereas we once had a priest-ridden society. And the best way to learn disrespect is to look at what these actual experts say. You know, if these people are so expert and they have such wisdom, let's go what they said before. And I looked at the Economic and Social Research Institute. The Economic and Social Research Institute is the top economist unit in Ireland, right? These are people who are not just stockbroker economists, but they're the cream of the cream, as they would like to put it themselves, right? Every quarter they have to produce a quarterly economic commentary, right? And this is their predictions for what the economy is going to look like. Now, I went back and looked at their predictions they made in 2008. So they're writing this in the spring of 2008 about what will be happening now. This is what they predict will be happening now. And here's the top economists in Ireland telling us what's going to happen. For 2009, we expect a modest recovery. Against the background of an improved climate and with the easing into contraction in house building, I have to translate now and then, that means that house building will start again. We expect GNP to grow by 3% and GDP to grow by 3.1%. They didn't go on at the end, I have to skip some of it. They said, we expect to see an extra net 24,000 jobs created in 2009. I'll just read that to you again, she might have got it. We expect an extra 24,000 new jobs in 2009. There's 500,000 jobs have gone. They are out by 475,000 jobs. Now, if you are an engineer, right, and you were building a bridge, and you said, I'm a scientist, and you said, right, if we apply this temperature, I expect an expansion of this amount, and you were out by such a colossal amount, you would hide. You would blush, you would disappear, you wouldn't be seen for a while. And the problem about Irish economists is they don't think there's a problem. They think they can just go back, repeat the same messages, and put across this line. So that's why we have to learn disrespect for economists. Now let's start with a few points on this, what's actually happening in Ireland. The first thing to say is that what we are experiencing in Ireland is the worst economic depression that any country has experienced in the industrial world since 1929. In 1929, the economy shrank by 10%. It kept on shrinking by 10% for each of the next 3 years. The Irish economy has already shrunk by 10%. The IMF says it's going to shrink by 13% next year, and after that we don't know. And you get a flavour of the crisis by this little remark picked up at an ESRI press conference. Says, you read yourself, I won't repeat what's on the actual screen. Now, when economies go through such a shock, one of the patterns we've noticed is what Naomi Klein called the shock doctrine. Before I wrote this book, I was reading Klein's book, The Shock Doctrine. It triggered off a lot of bells for me. Klein's book starts off with two things running parallel. One is what happened in New Orleans, and the other is a description of a friend of hers who had electric shock treatment applied to them. When people, in the past, unfortunately still, psychiatrists think that by giving electric shock treatment, they can cure all sorts of mental ailments. And the point about electric shock treatment, they don't know how it works. What it does is it breaks down the human personality, the thing, and then it allows that human personality to be reconfigured again in a docile way. And Klein draws an analogy between this and what she calls how rulers run society. And the point she makes is that inside ruling elites, there are often debates going on, because these people know they control the world, and they're strategizing and they're thinking of ideas, but the most far out ideas they dare not try on until there is a shock. And to use an example that Klein uses, if you go to New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina, when that happened, there was a 92-year-old right-wing economist called Milton Friedman who was writing away, and he says, as you would, he says, Hurricane Katrina is a terrible tragedy for the people of New Orleans. But, he says, it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to get rid of state-run schools. You have to understand the mindset. Friedman thinks state-run schools is like Soviet communism, slavery, serfdom, and so on. So what he said was, it's an opportunity to get rid of state-run schools. What does he want? He wants schools to be privatised, to be sold off and turned into a private business. And the problem is that 1 year after Friedman wrote this, all the schools of New Orleans were sold off. There's not a public school left in New Orleans. In other words, they use the period of shock when people are disorientated to try on new ruling class ideas, to reconfigure countries, to reorganise how they run the world. And this is what's happening in Ireland. This is what's happening in Ireland. The Irish people are going through it, or I put it differently, the people who live in Ireland are going through a tremendous period of shock, and a script has already been written for how this society is to be changed. The people writing the script are one of the nastiest conspiracies that operate in this country, and that conspiracy is called IBEC, the Irish Business and Employers Confederation. The Irish Business and Employers Federation is the organisation of Ireland's capitalists. On the board of the IBEC, you'll find, for example, one of the managing directors of Smurfit Kappa. They sit down and make decisions. But the character I want to just point to, I mean, you can't make this up sometimes in Ireland, it's so crude. This man, Eugene Sheehy, is on the board of IBEC. Those of you who remember when you listen to the banking crisis, Eugene Sheehy is the guy who ran AIB, who made a mess of things, who was forced to leave in disgrace, but he sits on the board of IBEC, writing the script for what's going to happen to this country in the future. Now, what is the script for IBEC? And one of my jobs is to read really boring documents, right? So I read sometimes things like pre-budget submissions. This is the formalities of bourgeois politics. You make your pre-budget submission and so on. Now, what's interesting about IBEC is, when you know you control the world, you don't mess around. You don't make vague things like we have to reduce working class living standards. You tell it exactly the way you want it. And what's awesome about these people is they spell it out. So it's not 8% or 9%. We estimate that wage levels require a downward correction in the order of 10%. Absolutely precise. This is what we want. Now, just pop down to the end here, and you'll notice they know that a 10% wage cut is going to make it worse. Where's the gone again? Have a further deflationary impact. It means it'll be worse, right? More people will be made unemployed. So they know it's going to cause more unemployment until 2010. But that's